What are the types of observational studies? So first of all, we can have a cross-sectional study, which is basically just a snapshot at a single time point. So an example for that is investigating potential risks for obesity. A student went to a number of randomly selected middle schools in California and collected data on BMI and, some other variables over here. So one point in time, our data is collected. A retrospective study, on the other hand, looks backwards in time. So this is oftentimes, looking at, lung cancer patients and asking them about their smoking habits. It could be, looking at hospital records and determine the cause of death. The third type of study is prospective, which is a long-term longitudinal study where we're looking at people over time. So two of my kids are actually part of the largest brain study in the country, where they're looking at these kids' brains from age 10 until age 20. And every 2 years, they're looking at an MRI and questionnaires every year. And different tasks are being considered, or they're asked to do certain things within the MRI as well. So what are some of the pros and cons for each one of these studies? And so for a retrospective study, for the pros, we could have, long-term effects. The cons are inconsistent memory. When people are asked to recall events in the past, oftentimes they may not remember. For the prospective, again, the pros could be looking at the effect over time. And the cons would be it is very time consuming, costly, and many times you will have people drop out of the study. Now let's also look at the types of experiments. So first of all, we could have a completely randomized design. This is where we take all our experimental units and we randomly assign them to the different treatment groups. We could have, different 3 different treatments, and oftentimes one of those treatment groups would be the control group that receives no treatment at all, or a sugar pill. The next design is our block design. This is where we split up the groups into different blocks. And usually we divide them by some characteristics that we may think has an effect on our outcomes. So we may want to, block them by gender, and then within each group, they're going to be assigned to the different treatments. Again, for one of the treatment group, often is the control group that receives no treatment at all. And so this is very similar to a stratified sampling technique. So make sure that you're not confusing the two, because a stratified design is for an observational study, where a block design is for an experimental study. Then we have a special kind of block design, and this is called a matched pair design. This is where we carefully design it where only 2 subjects are matched to each other and each one receives one of the treatments. Sometimes we can even have a person be a match to itself and they may receive both treatment, and we simply randomly assign the order of the 2 treatments. So we will look at examples like that later on in the course.